I just like to say Shabbat Shalom to everyone, and that we're going to deal into the Torah portion this week is Chayei Sarah. It's in Genesis 23:1, 25:18. This is the life of Sarah. So we might want to wonder why in the world would he dedicate a whole chapter and so forth just to the life of Sarah. But we know that there's a lot more meaning and future events that show forth the life of Sarah. One of the things, the first slide I want to show you, and maybe you'll get a kick out of this or whatever. This was on Facebook the other day. Says this is a NFL football game in a stadium up north, and you can tell that it has snowed considerably, and yet the stadium is full. So they put on there, if our churches had members with this kind of faithfulness and passion, we would change this world in no time. Isn't that the truth? Unfortunately, it speaks to our time that we see around us that people will drive many miles, stand many hours outside of a stadium waiting to get in to see, and whatever weather that there might be, but yet not darken the door of God's house. So that's a bad review of humanity in general, for sure. And there's also coming up, I think this weekend is the grand prize for the what is it? Not hockey, but what is it? Soccer. Yeah, the World Cup for soccer is being started this week, and there's people that's traveling all over the world because it's over in the Middle East for the first time, actually, which I thought was kind of unusual. But I was just seeing a thing that there was some people really not liking it where it's going to be. For one, their record on human abuse and women abuse and those type of things is not very good. But one of the things that was talked about was also that there are laws on their books against sodomy. And I thought, well, praise Yah, at least they stand for something like that, stand against what is happening in our world all over, that these immoral acts are being Christianized and being okay. So, and one of the other things was that they were crying about because that they was not going to allow them to have any alcoholic beverages at the games. And, man, that would be a real bad thing, So we know that the liquor companies spent billions of dollars advertising and so on and so forth. So, but just thought to just share with you a little bit of that. It's not really politics, but there is a gray line between politics and religion nowadays. So we're going to look at Genesis 23, starting in Genesis 23:1. And this is the life of Sarah. And Sarah was 127 years old. All right. Thank you, brother. I always forget that. It's something that I need to put in my memory, that we always want to open with a blast of the shofar, because that's what it shows in Numbers, that the shofar was used in many different ways, and one of them was to call the assembly together. And that's basically what we're doing this morning, is calling the assembly together. So Sarah was 127 years old. These were the years of the life of Sarah. And Sarah died in Kitjabar. The same is Hebron in the land of Canaan. And Abraham came to mourn for Sarah and to weep for her. And Abraham stood up from before his dead. and spake unto the sons of Het, saying, I am a stranger and a sojourner with you. Give me a possession of a burying place with you, that I may bury my dead out of my sight. I don't know if you caught it or even noticed it, that he stood up from before his dead. Well, in our vernacular, we think, well, I guess he was sitting and they had a meeting, and so he stood up and said, hey, But there's a little bit different, deeper meaning to that. As we go to our next slide, you see that this is a ritual in Judaism even today. And evidently it went back maybe further than just our time. It says even to the time of Abraham, probably before that, of what they call sitting Shiva. Okay? I don't know if you've ever heard of it or not, ever heard the word. It's actually Shiva, which is 7 days. Interesting that everything associated with our Father is always on 7, 7, 7s. They would sit down on the floor for 7 days, or on the ground, and mourn. Evidently, this is some early form of that tradition where he's sitting down, being consoled by his friends and relatives, and whoever would come and console him. Then he gets up and he's got to take care of business. Okay? So just to give you a peach of the insight, and we can say, well, that's just those Jews. Maybe it was something that was long before Jews. Okay? Going back to Genesis 23:5, and the children of Het answered Abraham, saying unto him, Hear us, my master, thou art a mighty prince among us. In the choice of our sepulchres bury thy dead. None of us shall withhold from thee his sepulchre, but that thou may bury thy dead. And Abraham stood up and bowed himself to the people of the land, even to the children of Het. And he communed with them, saying, If it be your mind that I should bury my dead out of my sight, hear me and entreat for me to Ephron, the son of Zohar, that he may give me the cave of Machpelah, which he has, which is in the end of his field, for as much money as it is worth, he shall give it to me for possession of a burying place among you. So he's already knows the place that he would like to have, and he asked for it, and he said whatever it cost. Going on, it says, And Ephron dwelt among the children of Het, and Ephron the Hittite answered Abraham in the audience of the children of Het, even of all that went in at the gate of his city, saying, Nay, my master, hear me. The field give I thee, and the cave that is therein. I give it in thee, in the presence of the sons of my people give it to thee. Bury your dead. And Abraham bowed down himself before the people of the land, and he spoke unto Ephron in the audience of the people of the land, saying, But if thou wilt give it, I pray thee, hear me. I will give thee money for the field. Take it of me, and I will bury my dead there. And Ephron answered Abraham, saying unto him, My master, hearken unto me. The land is worth 400 shekels of silver. What is that between me and you? Bury therefore your dead here. Well, as we go on and on further down in Torah portions, we see this same kind of a thing going on throughout the scriptures, and particularly in Exodus. Says, now this seems like to me that usually when you buy something, there's some sort of bargaining going on to knock the price down before the purchase is actually made. Well, that's what we all would like to try to do, is get it as cheap as we can. In this case, there seems to be a knocking up of price and insisting on paying full price, which is almost impossible, which is almost opposite of what usually happens. I think it's really interesting because a few chapters earlier we saw that Abraham was a master negotiator. Yeah. He actually was negotiating, haggling, so to speak, with the creator of the universe, trying to knock down the number of people that needed to be found in Sodom and Gomorrah to save their cities. Started off with 50 and ended up with 10. Here he comes before the children of Het, the Hittites, and they want to give him this tomb for free. And he says, no, I want to pay full price. Got to ask, what's going on here? What's the problem? I think it's Abraham saying, no, I'll pay you what you say it's worth. And in the presence of the witnesses, so that I have ownership. There's no them coming back and say, well, I gave Abraham that piece of land over. It's worth a lot, and I gave it to him. Pat me on the back. Of course, that's then an issue that we see even today. The other thing that comes to my mind is just stepping back in the Torah portion of chapter 15, verses 22 to 23. And this is the encounter with the king of Sodom and Melchizedek and so on. It says, but Abram said to the king of Sodom, I have raised my hand to Jehovah that I will take nothing from a thread to a sandal strap, and that I will not take anything that is yours, lest you should say, I have made Abram rich. Do you think there's a bit of that going on here in this transaction? But I think the main issue here is that if you don't pay for something, is it really yours? That's the question. That is the whole system of the Father. If you don't pay for what you've done, have you really been forgiven of such? So it's interesting. If you read throughout the Old Testament, there are 4 pieces of property that were bought by the Israelites. This is the first one, the cave of Machpelah, which means double cave. Here in Hebron, the next thing to be bought was the field in Shechem, where Joseph was later buried, which was bought by Jacob for 100 knesset. I don't know how you pronounce it, but it's apparently a type of a sheep. It wasn't actually money, but yet it was. It was a particular type of sheep that Jacob had raised and had interbred to get this particular type. You have the threshing floor of Arnua, the Jebusite, which became the Temple Mount. And you have the city of Samaria, which was bought from Shemer, the Canaanite, by Omar, the king of Israel, which are all contested to this day. Even though that they paid money for them, it was a legal transaction. Those 4 pieces of land, the rest of Israel, we can say God gave us. Those 4 pieces, we actually paid full price, cash money for them. Ironically, these are the 4 most contested pieces of land in Israel. I mean, literally, the cave of Machpelah to this day in Hebron is one of the most contested spots in the whole country. The Temple Mount, that's obvious that the Temple Mount is one of the most contested spots in the world. The tomb of Joseph, which is the very field that was purchased by Jacob thousands of years ago, it's still there, and it's, again, one of the most contested spots. The center of the entire dispute between the Palestinians and the Israeli movement to reclaim Judea and Samaria is Sebastia, which is the site of the ancient Samaria of Shemron, which was bought by Omar. So interesting how everybody in the world looks past those transactions. For one thing, evidently they never read the scriptures. And they'll say, well, y'all didn't own this land. You didn't even live here. The Palestinians lived here. This is a picture of the cave of Machpelah in Hebron. There are some here in this audience that actually have been there, walked these steps, and saw this building. So it is still there. Today, the cave of Machpelah is owned by the Muslims and is off limits to all Jews. They know this is the original site because Herod II built this building over it in about 25 BC. And Josephus writes about this building in his History of the Jews. And in the Six-Day War in 1967, Israel captured this site, but eventually gave it back to the Muslims like they did the Temple Mount after the Yom Kippur War. So they can't say, well, that they're trying to steal the land and they're squatters and on and on and on, because they have the deed in hand. We have the deed, the Scripture, the Bible itself. That is a deed. Genesis 23:16, going back to our Torah portion, and Abraham hearkened unto Ephron, and Abraham weighed to Ephron the silver which he had named in the audience of the sons of Het, 400 shekels of silver, current money, with the merchant. In the field of Ephron, which was in Machpelah, which was before Mamre, the field and the cave which was therein, and all the trees that were in the field that were in all the borders round about, were made sure. When you look up that word right there, this means deeded. Deeded, a legal contract. Unto Abraham for a possession in the presence of the children of Het before all that went into the gate of his city. And after this, Abraham buried Sarah's wife in the cave of the field of Machpelah before Mamre, the same as Hebron, in the land of Canaan. And the field and the cave that is therein were made sure unto Abraham for a possession of a burying place by the sons of Het. Made sure. Actually, the word that is translated as deeded or made sure is the word vayakam, which means, and it stood up. It was raised up. In this context, it actually is related to the word that indicates a covenant. It's, for example, the Aramaic word kimta. It comes from the same root. It would be better translated as the field and the cave that were in it were established as a covenant for Abraham for an inherited possession as a tomb from the children of Het. This is something that was actually a covenant, an eternal covenant that Abraham purchased. So, if you ever get in Israel or whatever, or get into a conversation with different people about that, you can show them and tell them that this was a covenant of a deeded piece of property. Now we're going to look at the wooing of Rebekah. And we're going to find what is interesting and why that we would even want to look at this wooing of Rebekah, is that it has far-reaching things to our time and who we are and who Rebekah represents. Okay? Genesis 24:1. And Abraham was old and well stricken in age, and Yahweh had blessed Abraham in all things. And Abraham said unto his eldest servant of his house, that ruled over all that he had, Put, I pray thee, thy hand under my thigh, and I will make thee swear by Yahweh, the Elohim of heaven and the Elohim of the earth, that thou shalt not take a wife unto my son of the daughters of the Canaanites, among whom I dwell. But thou shalt go unto my country and to my kindred, and take a wife unto my son Isaac. And the servant said unto him, Peradventure that the woman will not be willing to follow me into this land. Must I needs bring thy son again unto the land from which you came? And Abraham said unto him, Beware that thou bring not my son there again. These are pretty emphatic words that he spoke. He said, No, no, no. Yahweh Elohim of heaven, which took me from my father's house and from the land of my kindred, and which spake unto me, and that sware unto me, saying, Unto thy seed will I give this land. He shall send his angel before you, and you shall take a wife unto my son from there. If the woman will not be willing to follow thee, then thou shalt be clear from this my oath, and only bring not my son there. Because this was the very land that God had called Abraham out of, land of paganism and so on and so forth. And he didn't want his son to go back and to be trapped there. to see the great things of maybe that was going on and say, oh man, this is a lot better than living out kind of in the boonies. It says, if the woman will not be willing to follow thee, says, and the servant put his hand under the thigh of Abraham his master and swore to him concerning that matter. And the servant took 10 camels of the camels of his master and departed. For all the goods of his master were in his hand, and he arose and went to Mesopotamia unto the city of Nahor. And he made his camels to kneel down without the city by a well of water at the time of the evening, even the time that women go out to draw water. I want to show you an aerial map of here of the land at the time that this was taking place. Interesting, if you'll look really at it, you'll see Mesopotamia. You see that word kind of sits at an angle. But you see that this whole area contains Babylon there. Also, a little bit down below Babylon there is Ur, the very place where that God called Abraham out of the Chaldees. And this whole area looks right above it, it says Chaldea. Okay, so just to get an eye of where that is, and you see that over here by the ocean over here is Canaan. So this is where they were at, Abraham. And even maybe further down, you'll see that the Dead Sea is down there. And if you remember, Sodom and Gomorrah is very close to the Dead Sea. So it's a pretty good Turk over there to this area in Mesopotamia country. And just to get an eye on the nations and things that were in that area, you see Persia down below there, Media, Armenia, Asia Minor, Egypt over here. So it gives you kind of an idea, because later on we see, after the Babylonian kingdom fell to the Persia and Media. The Persia and the Medes come together and went against Babylon and overthrew it. So this was in the time of Daniel. So just to give you an idea of the geography of the land during that period of time. Looking at Genesis 24:12 going on, and he said, O Yahweh Elohim of my master Abraham, I pray thee send me good speed this day, and shew kindness unto my master Abraham. Behold, I stand here by the well of water, and the daughters of the men of the city come out to draw water. And let it come to pass that the damsel to whom I shall say, Let down thy pitcher, I pray thee, that I may drink, and she shall say, Drink. And I will give thy camels drink also, that the same be she that thou hast anointed or appointed for thy servant Isaac, and thereby shall I know that thou hast showed kindness unto my master. This was the test, the fleece, so to speak. And it came to pass before he had done speaking that, behold, Rebekah came out, who was born to Bethuel, son of Milcah, the wife of Nahor, Abraham's brother, with her pitcher upon her shoulder. And the damsel was very fair to look upon, a virgin. Neither had any man known her. And she went down to the well and filled her pitcher and came up. And the servant ran to meet her and said, Let me, I pray thee, drink a little water of thy pitcher. And the servant ran to meet her and said, sorry, made 2 copies of that one for some reason. Says, and she said, Drink, my lord. And she hasted and let down her pitcher upon her hand and gave him drink. And when she had done giving him drink, she said, I will draw water for your camels also until they have done drinking. And that's a considerable task. 10 camels. Camels drink a lot of water. And she hasted and emptied her pitcher into the trough and ran again into the well to draw water and drew for all of his camels. And the man, wondering at her, held his peace, to wit whether Yahweh had made his journey prosperous or not, even though she did the very things that he asked as a sign. And it came to pass, as the camels had done drinking, that the man took a golden earring of half a shekel weight, and 2 bracelets for her hand, and 10 shekels weight of gold, and said, Whose daughter are you? Tell me, I pray thee, is there room in thy father's house for us to lodge in? Hospitality was something that was practiced in the old country, wasn't it? You know, would you even think to ask somebody, hey, you got room in your house? I got 10 camels. Can I go and spend the night with in your house? And she said unto him, I am the daughter of Bethuel, the son of Milcah, which she bare unto Nahor. She said, Moreover unto him, we have both straw and provider enough and room to lodge in. And the man bowed down his head and worshipped Yahweh. And he said, Blessed be Yahweh Elohim of my master Abraham, who hath not left destitute my master of his mercy and his truth. I, being in the way, Yahweh led me to the house of my master's brethren. And the damsel ran and told them of her mother's house these things. Pretty interesting, isn't it? A young damsel that's a virgin saying for the house, hey, yeah, come on in. Don't need to go ask my dad, you know. Because it was instilled into them, hospitality. And now if we will deal kindly and truly with my master, tell me, and if not, tell me that I may turn to the right hand or to the left. This is in Genesis 24:49 going on. Then Laban and Bethuel answered and said, The thing proceedeth from Yahweh. We cannot speak unto thee bad or good. Behold, Rebekah is before thee. Take her and go, and let her be thy master's son's wife. As Yahweh has spoken, it came to pass that when Abraham's servant heard their word, he worshipped Yahweh, bowing himself to the earth. And the servant brought forth jewels of silver and jewels of gold and raiment, and gave them to Rebekah. He gave also to her brother and to her mother precious things. And they did eat and drink, and he and the men that were with him, and tarried all night. And they rose up in the morning, and he said, Send me away unto my master. And her brother and her mother said, Let the damsel abide with us a few days, at least 10. After that she shall go. Here comes some bargaining once again. In fact, there are portions that read those few days could be long as a year. Says, and he said unto them, Hinder me not, seeing Yahweh hath prospered my way. Send me away that I may go to my master. We talked about how the symbols are in this story. It says, Moreover, as the bride of Isaac, Rebekah symbolizes Messiah's bride. Okay? Isaac prefigures the Messiah in several ways. He is the promised seed of Abraham, the only begotten son who was sacrificed. In a symbolic manner, Isaac represents the Messiah. If we carry that imagery forward into this parsha, we can look to the story about Rebekah for insight into the bride of Messiah and her relationship with Isaac. Abraham commissioned his servant Eliezer, and sent him on a mission to seek out a suitable bride. In Hebrew, a person sent on a mission is called a shalach, which means sent one. The same word translates into Greek as apostolic, which in turn enters English New Testament translation as apostle. In that sense, Abraham commissioned and sent Eliezer as his apostle. Okay? So Yeshua commissioned his apostles with a similar assignment. He sent them to make disciples for himself. These disciples in turn constitute the assembly of the Messiah, which the New Testament metaphorically refers to as the bride of Messiah. The Messiah himself is the Shalach of God, sent by the Father to proclaim the gospel of the kingdom. In the Gospel of John, Yeshua repeatedly reminds his disciples that he was sent from the Father. He refers to God as the one who sent me, the Father who sent me, he who sent me, and so forth. Yeshua used the term in various formulas at least 40 times throughout the Scriptures. In that regard, he models the work of the Shalach for us, and as his Shalach, we are set out to search for his bride. That is our commission. That is our calling, right? We'll look at Hosea 2:14. It says, "Therefore, behold, I will allure her, and bring her into the wilderness, and speak comfortably unto her. And I will give her her vineyards from hence, and the valley of Acre for a door of hope. And she shall sing there as in the days of her youth, and as in the day when she came up out of the land of Egypt. And shall be at that day, saith Yahweh, that thou shalt call me Isha, and shalt call me no more Baal. For I will take away the name of Balaam out of her mouth, and they shall no more be remembered by their name." This is Israel he's speaking of, right? Going on in Hosea, "And in that day will I make a covenant for them with the beasts of the field, and with the fowls of heaven, and with the creeping things of the ground. And I will break the bow and the sword and the battle out of the earth, and will make them to lie down safely. And I will betroth thee unto me forever. Yea, I will betroth thee unto me in righteousness and in judgment, and in loving kindness and in mercies. I will even betroth thee unto me in faithfulness, and thou shalt know Yahweh." "And it shall come to pass in that day that I will hear, saith Yahweh, I will hear the heavens, and they shall hear the earth. And the earth shall hear the corn, and the wine, and the oil, and they shall hear Jezreel. And I will sow her unto me in the earth, and I will have mercy upon her that had not obtained mercy. And I will say to them which were not my people, thou art my people, and they shall say, thou art my Elohim." The alluring of his bride, the calling of his bride. Ezekiel 20:33. "As I live, saith sovereign Yahweh, surely with a mighty hand, and with a stretched out arm, and with fury poured out, will I rule over you. And I will bring you out from the people, and will gather you out of the countries wherein that you are scattered, with a mighty hand, and with a stretched out arm, and with fury poured out. And I will bring you into the wilderness of the people, and there will I plead with you face to face, like as I pleaded with your fathers in the wilderness of the land of Egypt. So will I plead with you, says the sovereign Yahweh. And I will cause you to pass under the rod, and I will bring you into the bond of the covenant. And I will purge out from among you the rebels and them that transgress against me." Once again, he is alluring his bride, bringing us into the wilderness to plead with us face to face. He says, please enter into the bond of the covenant that I have made with you from the very beginning. And I will purge out from among you the rebels and them that transgress against me. Isaiah 62:4. "Thou shalt no more be termed forsaken, neither shall thy land any more be termed desolate. But thou shalt be called Hephzibah, and thy land Beulah. For Yahweh delighteth in thee, and thy land shall be married. For as a young man marrieth a virgin, so shall thy sons marry thee. And as the bridegroom rejoices over the bride, so shall thy Elohim rejoice over you. The voice of joy and the voice of gladness, the voice of the bridegroom and the voice of the bride, the voice of them that shall say, Praise Yahweh of hosts. For Yahweh is good, for his mercy endureth forever. And of them that shall bring the sacrifices of praise into the house of Yahweh. For I will cause to return the captivity of the land as at the first, says Yahweh. So we see in this story of Rebekah and Isaac the fulfilling of those very same things that took place there, the calling of his bride, because in Isaac will the world be blessed, it says. Revelation 19:6, and I heard as it were the voice of a great multitude, and as the voice of many waters, and as the voice of mighty thunderings, saying, Hallelujah, for Yahweh or Elohim, El Shaddai reigneth. Let us be glad and rejoice and give honor to him, for the marriage of the Lamb is come, and his wife hath made herself ready. To her was granted that she should be arrayed in fine linen, clean and white, for the fine linen is the righteousness of saints. And he saith unto me, Write, blessed are they which are called into the marriage supper of the Lamb. And he said unto me, These are the true sayings of Elohim. This is something that we're all looking forward to, right? To the marriage supper of the Lamb. Revelation 21:1, and I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea. And I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from Elohim out of heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a great voice out of heaven saying, Behold, the tabernacle of Elohim is with men, and he will dwell with them, and they shall be his people, and Elohim himself shall be with them, and be their Elohim. And he shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there shall no more be death, nor sorrow, nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away. What a great thing that we're involved in. He's called us as the called out ones, as his apostles, as people that not only seek him, but seek his bride. So what a glorious task that we have before us, and what a great calling that each one of us have to not only calling of ourselves as to walk in his way, but to lead others back to him and to walk in his way. We know that this is desperately needed in our world because people are walking further and further away from Yahweh, walking away from all of the calling and things that he has placed on mankind. The wanting not to follow in his paths or obey his laws or his commandments, but to do as what is in their heart. So I hope that this Torah portion brings you hope and knowing that you are a particular people that have been called to walk in his path, be examples. Let the mind of Yeshua be in you, that it shows forth his light unto this dark and dying world, and that we're looking for and want to be a part of that bride of the Messiah when he comes. So let's say Shabbat Shalom to everyone, and
Thank you for watching a teaching from Emet HaTorah. If you are ever in the Odessa area, we would love to welcome you to our Shabbat service, 11 a.m. every Sabbath. For more information or for more teachings, feel free to find us on the web, www.emethatorohodessa.com. Also, you can find us on Facebook. Thank you. God bless you and your family. Shalom.